Go ahead and hit record. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. You have joined Innovate BC in partnership with Can Do. I am super excited. I always love Cate. I can call you a friend now. We're relatives. I've listened to Cate, our guest speaker, a couple of times, and she is so down to earth. She's got so much knowledge. So I just know that you will walk away with some tips. You'll walk away inspired and motivated, ready to look at those finances. And she's going to be talking about entrepreneurship. So really excited about today's webinar, and I hope that you are too. So I always love to give a shout out to Creator before we, begin talking about why we're here. But really why we're here, if a philosophical question perhaps, is all about Creator. So we give thanks for the gift of this beautiful day that has been given to us. We give thanks that sun rose in the east. Creator met us for another day. We are here in this beautiful virtual community, this circle, to take on some new knowledge, to learn, perhaps to be challenged. And so we give thanks to Creator for all of these gifts that have been given to us. We think of our loved ones, we think of our family and friends, we think of all our relations, the animals, the sacred waters, the plants, all Mother Earth. So we give thanks for all of these gifts. And yesterday was International Water Day. I feel like that should be a day we celebrate water and just to honor this gift that Creator has given to us every day. So when you drink that glass of water today, just make sure you just honor, there we go, make sure you honor Creator and you give thanks for this amazing gift that really sustains us and helps us to walk in a good way as well. All right, so I'm so excited to introduce Cate. As I've said before, I've got to listen to her present many, many times, and I madly write notes down, taking in all of her knowledge. So today's webinar is the rise of microbusiness, when bigger is not better. So Indigenous entrepreneurship is on the rise, and with good reason. It's an excellent career choice for many. Being an Indigenous business owner provides the benefits of financial security, independence, and flexibility on a personal level. So on a larger scale, Indigenous-owned businesses are not only revitalizing the Indigenous economy, they are also bolstering millions of dollars into the Canadian economy. So Indigenous entrepreneurs are paving Indigenous or industrious paths towards economic reconciliation while maintaining Indigenous values and culture. So she calls it Indigpreneurs. I love it. Can take the business format of incorporated entities, cooperatives, partnerships, but many start their entrepreneurial journeys as sole proprietors, providing products and services into the economy based on their own capacity to scale production. So in today's knowledge sharing session, the founder, which is the wonderful, the one and only Cate Morris of Scout Financial Solutions, shares vital firsthand and industry-studied knowledge on the significance of the microbusiness model as a viable option for emerging Indigpreneurs. That's a tough one to say. I got to wrap my head around that one. Well, not my head. I got to wrap how I pronounce. All right. The entrepreneur topic is important because sometimes great things start out small. And bigger may not always be the best option for many who are starting their ownership path to economic vitality. So this session will speak to the concept of microbusiness movement and include thriving microbusiness examples. So our guest speaker, she's joining us from Regina, Saskatchewan. Woo woo! So that's where I was born. So I love to give credit to Regina. She is an active community member there. She's a staunch financial literacy advocate and passionate entrepreneur. She's the founder of Scout Financial Solutions, which is an Indigenous owned and operated financial literacy education and consulting business that provides personal finance life skills. Her business is also marketed as a money scout. So in honor of Indigenous scouts who mapped new territories and ensured the safety of their nations. In much the same way, Cate provides experienced insight and knowledge about the vast and unknown territory of personal finances, such as entrepreneurship. So this beautiful, amazing powerhouse has so much knowledge. She has so much good education also that she brings to the table on this important conversation. So Cate, welcome, welcome. We're honored you're here, and I'm passing you the virtual mic.
Thank you so much. What beautiful, kind words. I so appreciate it. And I really love being able to collaborate with entities such as Can Do. And Michelle, seeing you as the moderator, I love it. You just set people at ease and you just make us all feel so welcome, and I'm already feeling more empowered. So if I have the opportunity for sharing my PowerPoint presentation, has that been provided to me? It has, great. So hi, everybody. I'm just gonna open up the screen first and we'll get rolling on this. So I'm gonna share it and then we're going to open it up. Open it up. There we go. Everyone can see that okay? And everyone can hear me all right? If not, by all means, let Michelle know if you have any questions or concerns. Michelle will be able to kind of take over that area for me, because a lot of times we can only really see the screen and a little bit of vision on the side there. So I'm going to move this as well. So entrepreneurship talk today, the rise of the microbusiness when bigger isn't always better. So Antatuwashte, in my Dakota language, that means good day. And I just want to welcome you to the session, and also to thank you for taking time out of your day to empower yourself with a little bit of knowledge and some networking. So I guess land acknowledgement is a thing nowadays. So all I want to say is I'm coming at you live from Pile of Bones in Treaty 4 territory. As we all know, it's all traditional Indigenous land. So feel free to be your authentic, brave, and creator blessed self. So quick introduction. I'm not going to go through a lot of it, but this is significant to the talk I'm presenting to yourself today. So everybody has a once upon a time fairy tale happily ever after, right? Mine was complicated a little bit by the story of hardships, struggles, survivals, and of course, rebuilding. We see a lot of things coming to light now. I too experienced an excess of childhood traumas. And I want to be clear in saying that my parents, my siblings, my family members, my communities were not necessarily bad people, but really bad things happened. And there was some of those experiences that are, like I said, coming to light nowadays. Moving into adulthood, I certainly had my share of adult traumas, which my plan A, happily ever after, knight in shining armor, passed away prematurely at the tender age of 25, leaving me to raise our children on my own. So plan A canceled. Plan B was rebuilding, attempting another relationship, which was unsuccessful, but I was blessed with a wonderful bouncing 11-pound baby boy who's now 6'5" and 265 and one of the lights of my life. But then I was in a near fatal accident that actually resulted in me having to leave my federal government position. And with that near fatal accident, I actually ended up living in a limited capacity context. I was physically compromised as well as financially, because every crisis comes with a personal finance or a financial hit, right? So I had to go through that process. So here I am, visibly Indigenous, female, solo parent to 3, and I'm disabled. I have a neural disability because of that accident. So the label that we normally hear about someone like myself is marginalized, right? But I always say, as our strong ones, as our elders, as our leaders say, we don't give up around here. So I'm really grateful and thankful to say that I'm on plan C, which I always say is plan Cate. And really technically it's a life rebuilt ×3. So here I am. That's my heart in one picture, except for the dog and the cat. You may hear the dog. I apologize in advance. So I'm living 100% abundantly, and it doesn't always necessarily equate to financial wealth or 100% health, but it's a mindset, right? So part of that abundance was creating my own business. So some of the labels I hear nowadays is helper, knowledge sharer, money scout, because that's what I love doing, is helping people manage their finances. And now recently, because I'm doing very well with my business, a BizWiz. Well, I am a successful founder, owner, and operator of a micro business. I am a sole proprietor, and I love this business because, number one, it allows me to pursue that matriarch mission, that calling for me to end cyclical poverty, one inspiring sharing at a time, and particularly with our First Nation communities. I've been studying it for more than 25 years, so I have a strong passion and a strong skill set, and I'm even a certified financial educator. That's what all those little initials behind my degree are. Number two, what I love about being an entrepreneur, business owner, a micro business, is I actually am able to share my passionate entrepreneurship lived experience with others, in support of others, because I know how difficult it is to start out and say, I don't even know where to start. What comes first? Do I do this? Do I do that? What about taxation? Where do I reside in my business? And all of those challenges, we just don't know what we need to know. Also, not only about money, but also about entrepreneurship. My ultimate goal, though, is inspire to aspire others towards their own 100% abundance, however that may look for themselves. So if you're comfortable, I know there's no longer pennies anymore, but I always say penny for your thoughts. I'm going to encourage you at this point. I know we have limited time, so we can't go around in a circle the way we normally would in an in-person session. I just want to encourage you to post in the chat, if you're comfortable, your name, where you're listening in from, and if you have any type of business information you'd like to share. This is a great opportunity for all of us Indigpreneurs to market and connect and get together virtually. So I'll just thank you in advance for sharing. And as you do that, I'm just going to proceed through the presentation so that we don't get behind in time, because I really love sharing it. So let's talk about entrepreneurship. Okay, so the definition that I've been utilizing is the activity of setting up a business or businesses, it includes taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. These businesses can be the form of an incorporated entities, any type of partnerships, cooperatives, and not-for-profit or social enterprises, and of course, sole proprietorship and micro businesses. For those of you who are visual people, here's an image of what business ownership looks like. Isn't that just amazing? It states, those of you who cannot see the screen, it has a picture of two indigenous people beating at a table, making their product, business owners producing. And it states, there is now a generation of children watching their mothers pay the bills, put food on the table, become businesswomen, fashion designers by beating. Just imagine the stories those children will tell when they grow up. The other post that I have there states, some of us are building from scratch, no inheritance, no connections, no backups, just blood, sweat, and skills. Now that really relates to our Indigenous peoples, our Indigenous communities in current times, right? But I can honestly state that with some of the research I've done is that our Indigenous people have been entrepreneurs since the beginning. We've been able to create, to hunt, share, trade, barter, and exchange, and produce our own requirements. So this isn't technically new. It's kind of memory trade. So I'll carry on now. So let's talk about the micro business. And another definition coming up. Micro businesses are loosely defined as businesses with fewer than 10 employees, which including the owner. Most often than not, micro businesses are actually owned and operated by a single person. And that comes from nerdwallet.com. That's the source for that definition. So some of the micro business characteristics and traits, identifying characteristics are that, again, as the definition stated, you're primarily operated by sole proprietorships. Usually it's a one-person operation, but most definitely it's less than 10 employees. The revenue or the sales averages below 250,000 in a year. And they are normally have lower startup business opening costs, and operating costs are also lower. Some of the examples that I can come up with that are like examples of successful sole proprietorship micro businesses are people who do side hustles. Many of them will have a daytime business or pardon me, a daytime job, or they're an employee somewhere else, or they're a student, and then they do something else on the side. So for myself, I have several income streams that are secured income and relatable income in the daytime and other times, but I also still have my business that I've launched to kind of make up that difference. Remember when I talked about my accident and my injuries, I was forced into early medical retirement. So I only had 65% of my previous income. So what I did was I created this business, this micro business, for me to capitalize and tap into the remaining dollars that I was missing from being medically retired. So it's a side hustle, meaning it's something they do on the side. We see a lot of freelancers getting in on this and being sole proprietors, micro businesses, because they're doing things on their own. You may see them sitting at a desk at another entity, but they're still their own independently owned and operated business, but they actually engage in other workplaces. Another thing that people don't consider are those who are tradespeople or single tradespeople, solo tradespeople. So somebody owns his own plumbing business or his own construction company, or like maybe a handyman company. Like they're actually operating on a micro business basis. And so too are certain professionals. We think about healthcare professionals, dentists, doctors, even lawyers, accountants. A lot of them are sole proprietorships and they're micro businesses because they haven't technically tapped into some of that larger dollar value yet. They're starting out. So we're in great company, wouldn't you think? Another thing too is when you think about sole proprietorship and micro businesses, you almost always see them operating in something called the gig economy, meaning we don't sign up or commit to long-term projects or long-term employment. We actually will be maybe a contractor that will sit in, meet a need, and then move on. Once the need and once the project is complete, we pack up our own little business and then we move on to another project and work within there. So we're constantly always in flux or in flow with different entities, but remain solely our own ownership and our own boss. So let's talk about some of the benefits of this type of micro business. And I always say, because sometimes bigger isn't always better. So some of the benefits that would really appeal, I think, to a lot of people is that it's much simpler to not only operate, but also to open. So for sole proprietorship, it's not complex. A lot of times there isn't a need for a legal or accounting or any of those types of professionals that other types of business ownership requires. So it's much simpler process. You research your business name, you register your business, you secure your own website, domain, business cards, marketing material, and you determine how and where and when you're going to be working. So it's much simpler to operate as this micro business or sole proprietor. As the definition stated, there's always lower startup cost or primarily there's lower cost for the micro business. So lower startup costs, again, you don't have to engage with some of the professionals that other business entities would be required to do, and sometimes on an annual basis. So for myself, I use an example of myself. When I started my consulting business, I had $400 dedicated to it from my own pocket. So I didn't obtain any loans. I didn't risk any indebtedness or anything like that. And I really couldn't do it because I couldn't afford it as a solo parent with 3 kids and only one income, but only my own income supporting us. I really couldn't risk taking on indebtedness for something that I really wanted to do and start this business. So $400, that's all it took for me. It's also got lower operating costs. If you're a sole proprietor or micro business, you don't normally have a large significant rental space or office space. Again, I'll use myself as an example. I'm coming at you live from my home office in my home that I own. So I really just have the space here, and it actually has some tax savings benefits for me to operate from my home base, because I know a lot of Indigenous entrepreneurs are concerned about taxation when you start earning money. It is true that because I operate from my home, which is not on reserve, my income earned from my business is is considered taxable income. So I do have to file my taxes a little bit differently, but there's really not much more to it. All of my taxable income is is directed towards me and my personal income tax. But because I operate a home-based business and because I have business expenses, it actually reduces the amount of business revenue that they would consider taxable. And I'm able to utilize my home space to reduce that bill. So it's fantastic. See, much lower operating costs than if I was, say, renting or leasing a space somewhere else. I also, as a consultant, we don't have a lot of the product and a lot of the products expenses that I would as a service provider. A service provider doesn't have very many, so it all kind of depends also on the type of business that you're operating. The other thing that I really love is I think about sole proprietorship, SOLE, and then I think about soul proprietorship, like the soul, the nature of who you are. And what I really love about my business is I get to do what I love. And a lot of micro businesses and entrepreneurs say, that's what I do, I love. So you find something that you're really good at, and then you cross-reference it with things that you love to do, and then there's a market for that. So you make sure that you're able to tap into the market, the skill set, the need that the market requires, but you still feel really good about what you're doing, because every day you get up and, you know, you get to wake up and say, oh, I get to do this. I love doing this. I love being able to provide value to others and to contribute to the greater good. So it's fantastic. I'm going to go with a couple more benefits for yourselves, because I really think it's a fantastic career for a number of Indigenous people, for a lot of people, if you can't meet the Monday to Friday. So you get autonomy, total 100% autonomy in your business activities and your decisions. So think about that. If you're sitting at a desk job, that's great. That's your Monday to Friday grind. But when you own your own business, and it's a micro business, so it's not a lot of competing interests, you just kind of say, oh, this is how I see it. This is what I want to do. These are the things that I hoped to accomplish and that I'm going to work towards accomplishing. So you have that whole total freedom. That's all it is. It's freedom. It's independence, autonomy, right? That's the word that is really significant to Indigenous people. Also, I love the flexibility of being a micro business owner, because I'm not reporting to a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 kind of place at this point, but I'm still generating revenue in unique ways for myself. And the flexibility in your workload is you can say yes or no to as many projects as you can possibly manage for yourself successfully and competently, right? And also the time frames. So if I wake up at 4 a.m. one morning and I decide I'm going to work on my business, I can do that as opposed to waiting for the office to open up, right? Or let's say that I actually have a personal family matter, and I do. I'm a solo parent to 3 kids, and I always want to make myself 100% available to them. So sometimes I have to kind of set aside other times, or to short notice say, can we just reschedule or can we adjust this? And I'm always making sure I have that flexibility built into my schedule also, as a person with a disability who has to pace through some skills or some requirements and some needs. I also think, and I stated this opening up this page, is that it is a phenomenally wonderful opportunity for Indigenous people. I use the word Indigpreneurs. I think other people are kind of buzzing around that as well, and they use that same word. I don't know who created it or the base of it is, but that's exactly what we are. We're Indigenous people who are entrepreneurs. So it's so nice to be able to say, I may never fit into corporate Canada's concept of what a business person looks like, because I live on the res, because I'm part of a different sect of a society, because I operate from a completely different worldview, right? Some people are commerce-based and some of us are community-based, and that's a worldview of Indigenous people, that entrepreneurship, sole proprietorship, micro businesses can still allow you to exercise in, to still allow you to be wholly who you are, who Creator made you to be. It's also a fantastic option for anybody who doesn't actually fit into that 9 to 5. So whether you have a disability, whether you have some remote or access challenges, because I know a lot of people are in remote communities, so they have to worry about, how am I going to get to market? So you can just see the opportunities and all these things that can actually work on you with, the World Wide Web, the internet opening up. So it's an excellent startup option for Indigenous people, people with disabilities, people of color, and people who actually, maybe even if you're nocturnal, you can open a tattoo shop at night because you're a night person and sleep in every morning. It's so fantastic if you think about the options there. Another phenomenal benefit of being a sole proprietor, micro business owner, is that there's relatively low risk to our learning about business. So there's low risk for us learning how to manage our business. So if I make a decision and it's not the right one, it's not like I'm dealing with millions of dollars in losses or risk or liability. I'm dealing initially, when you're starting out, with some relatively smaller numbers. So it's, it's an affordable risk. The other thing too, on the other side of that statement, is that it's such a fantastic learning opportunity for future business growth. So for myself as a solopreneur, I've been really managing my business successfully for several years now, and I've been able to franchise myself, grow myself. So I actually have several different types of offerings to my clients, as opposed to simply financial literacy. But also I'm working on an incorporated business. So the risk factor is much lower because I know more about what I'm doing, but also I have an opportunity for me to say, I feel comfortable moving there because not only I have the skill set and the experience, but I also now have clientele that I've been able to build with my own personal business. So again, I just cannot speak highly enough about starting your path on entrepreneurship and being a micro business owner. Now, on the other side of the coin are challenges. So let's talk about some of the things that sole proprietors, micro business owners might experience. A lot of times they struggle with risk identification to their business. So what I mean by that is sometimes you don't know what you need to know. It's like that with personal finances when I teach personal finances, but it's definitely also like that for entrepreneurship, because if you've never been through it, you don't have anybody who is business owners, you might be remotely located. So there isn't a lot of people going into your community. So you may not have the access to resources that others have. The challenge is just trying to identify what could be a challenge to your business if you don't understand some of the business concepts. So you got to be considerate of that and try to manage and mitigate that. And I'll show you a few tips on how to do that. Another challenge is it may be difficult as a sole proprietor to access any type of capital or funds to launch your business or to grow your business or to upgrade any type of product or machinery that you may require. Another challenge is maybe a hesitation to make some timely decisions. If you're operating in a bubble and you're alone on these things and there's a new challenge that's coming up to you, or maybe a project that is lucrative, but you're not sure if you're able to take it on at this point, sometimes solopreneurs have a hesitancy to make those decisions in a timely manner. Another challenge that I see a lot of is not balancing your business administrative tasks to what you're doing in terms of production. So a lot of people are production heavy, meaning they'll spend the most of their time producing your product, whether it's beadwork, whether it's material, whether it's whatever you're producing as a business owner. You spend a lot of time in production, and then you see the stack of receipts and finances and tax returns and all of those other things and marketing sitting to the side. So that's a huge challenge for people, and being able to manage what you need to do for running the business and the product or service you're creating to raise revenue for the business. An additional challenge is managing capacity and growth challenges. So what I mean by that is a lot of times, let's say that you're doing well enough and you make, let's say you make 2 widgets an hour, then all of a sudden you become popular, word of mouth is spread, you're doing great in your social media marketing. So people are coming out to you and they're saying, hey, I need 4 widgets and I need 7 widgets. So then all of a sudden you're looking at larger values in production, but you are a one person shop and you're only really, it takes you an hour to make 2 widgets. So that's what we mean by capacity. How many widgets of whatever product you're selling, right? We're just calling them widgets. Are you able to personally create in the hour? You only have so many hours in a day. You need to eat, sleep, rest, play, recoup, and to walk the dog and hug your kids and all those good things. So you have to consider that as a sole proprietor, a sole entrepreneur. And the other side of it, again, very similar to that, I should say, is growth challenges. What happens if you actually want to grow your business, but you're struggling to make your per hour quota? So those are challenges that some entrepreneurs struggle with, and also isolation. And I know this is something that everybody has been going through because of the COVID restrictions for personal interactions. So don't feel alone in that, but it is definitely something that I think solopreneurs, microbusiness owners need to be aware of, that sometimes you work complete isolation. And I'm like that too. I'm almost always in my office, and I'm rarely outside in the communities, or rarely outside with opportunities to engage sometimes. So I have to be cognizant not to get too much into my own head a lot of times and lose some of the focus of what I need to do for the business and for my own well-being. So let's address those challenges. I'm going to encourage you to seek out opportunities for you to counter the challenges. Number one, find a mentor or mentors. What I did when I started my business is I actually took out about 3 business entrepreneurs for coffee and a couple for lunch. And I said, hi, I'd like to treat you for something, but I'd just really like to pick your brain out about a couple things. So I always asked them the very similar questions, and then I listened intently to what they had to say. And then I was able to start kind of processing my own steps based on their feedback. And some of them challenges were starting too soon, growing too quickly, struggling with employee turnover, those types of things. So everything they spoke about, I listened intently. And it was really almost free advice. I got to spend time with successful business owners. I got to learn what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And it was really only for the cost of taking them out for a coffee, or I think one of us had a lunch special one time. So really ask others. People are always willing to help and share. So if you think of somebody you'd like to reach out to, ask them about their business. In terms of earning capital or revenue to start your business, I would encourage you to seek out granting opportunities for yourselves. There are a number of different grants, and they're relational to different sects of business. So there may be something for Indigenous women, there may be something for Indigenous communities, there may be something for rural communities, and then there may be something for, there isn't really a lot for people with disabilities, as my research found out, but there still are organizations that can support if for gift in kind type of things. So they'll give you skill sets or give you somebody to help you out with that. Bootstrap. If you need money, bootstrap. I remember she's currently a very successful business owner, but when she was starting to draft her idea, she was utilizing her skill set in a way that was bringing money into the concept of her other business. And she didn't go that route. And I thought it was so fantastic, because I kept thinking, I think you already have a successful business. A number of people voiced that. We cannot take credit by any means for all the amazing work she did, but I think everybody kind of recognized that she was already running a successful business. But for others, for bootstrapping, there's so many different ways for you to be able to earn money, to start your business, to grow your business, to purchase your product and material. The other thing I would encourage people to do is to seek out business competitions. Like I said, I started my business with $400 of my own. And then I started setting aside business revenue. So I wasn't spending everything I brought in. I was like, my business needs stuff down the road. I may not know at this point what it is, but it probably will need something. But I also entered a business competition, and I thought that was a really fun way for new businesses to start getting money for themselves. And it was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really neat, amazing, cool people. And yeah, Money Scout brought a little bit of coin home. So that was a bonus. I also encourage you to grow your money knowledge, because a lot of times if lenders are saying no to you, it's very clearly something in relation to your personal money, your personal credit, your personal debt load. Because when you start a new business, they actually don't have any type of history. All of the credit history and all the experiences are related to the individual who owns the business. So if you don't yet have credit, think about establishing a little bit of credit. So at the time comes, if you need to tap into dollars, they can start saying, oh yeah, I see that you have a credit card and you're managing it. Good credit. So those types of things. Also, if you're worrying about not or hesitating or not addressing things that as they come across the table, get some more input from those experts. Ask your mentors, reach out to other entrepreneur organizations or individuals and kind of get their feedback and everything like that. You don't have to follow everything, but the more opinions you get, the better you have an understanding of what would work best for you. And set deadlines for yourself. If you don't know, then at least set a personal deadline for yourself to respond with, I don't know at this point. and then try to find out on your own. If you're struggling with just producing, and you have a mess of paperwork, or you haven't yet done some of the things that are administrative, transferring from your business account, personal account, any of those things that are administrative, try to set specific time aside each day for those administrative steps. So you can either set aside the first 30 minutes of your day, your work day, or for some people, they actually set aside one day a week or one day a month for them to do their financials or to do all their administrative stuff. That way, when new orders come in, you have room on your plate to take on more additional work, because you've kind of moved the other stuff off the way because you've done it. If you're growing too quickly, there's a couple things you can do. Number one is just say no. I appreciate the business. I appreciate your interest in me. Unfortunately, at this point, I already have my schedules for the month but we can take a look at the following month. It's okay to do that, because clients would rather you be upfront, direct, and honest with them and saying, I can do that, or I can't, or I'm not interested, or I don't have that skill set yet. It's totally fine to be honest and open with them. That's what they want, is an honest business, right? You can also outsource some of your stuff. So if you're not great with numbers, a lot of people will utilize an accountant or a bookkeeper for their business books, because it takes the amount of time from them. So it might take you 8 hours to do it. It might take your accountant an hour or something. So you can see how that actually would save you dollars and time in the long run. At some point, you may want to also employ people. You might want to be a boss and have employees work for your company, right? So a lot of small business owners, microbusiness, do employ some people for some of the work. I like doing this next tip. So I like to collaborate with others. So I've had a couple of collaborations with different businesses where I bring my expertise to the table and they bring their expertise to the table, and another one joins us and brings their expertise to the table. And we produce the same thing. We produce one product, but we all bring our own experiences, and all of our businesses benefit, not only from networking, from spreading the word about our business, but also in revenue sharing. So make sure that everything's laid out up front, if it's revenue-based or if it's just contribution-based, and be clear with that. And it's so fantastic to work with others. So it's a great way to kill the isolation blues, but also to be able to still take on bigger projects. If you're feeling isolated, alone, lonely, struggling with it, there's so many network opportunities online and also at local events. I went to a WESC and FHQ event last week, and I loved it. It was so wonderful to see all of these entrepreneurs, and it was so wonderful to hear them speaking on their panels. And then this really amazing organic thing happened afterwards. After it all shut down, there was about 6 or 7 of us that stuck around, and we were all Indigenous women. And so we just kind of sat around and just shared, and it was so amazing. And I literally floated out of there just feeling like, wow, I really needed that, because it's been a long, cold winter and I've been working alone, and the voice in my head is starting to answer back and they're arguing. So it was so good to get out and just say, yes, I'm a part of a greater thing. So if you can't find those kind of resources, or if you're a little shy or a little hesitant, create a group. There's a couple of entrepreneurs and I that we would Zoom in once a week, and we would just touch base and have your high and low kind of week. What was your high point? What was your low point? What are you learning on? What are you working on? How can I support you? I'll share the word, or let me send you a link. And it was fantastic. We'd meet for about an hour once a week. And it felt really good to be a part of that. And we took a break over the winter, but now hopefully we can get back going on that and start looking at business tools that can help you launch your business, manage your business, maintain your business, and grow your business. So I'll introduce you very quickly to something called the Business Model Canvas. Now, I discovered this when I was in a business competition, and I really appreciated it because I'm a visual person. And at that time, I didn't even have a business opened yet, and I didn't have a business plan, and I didn't even know at that point what a business plan was. So we'll just kind of talk about the business model canvas a little bit. So the definition, I'm all about definitions, so people can have that understanding, right? Well, the business model canvas is a strategic management template used for developing new business models and documenting existing ones. It offers a visual chart. So there's the one that I used to introduce the business model canvas. This is taken directly from the Business Development Canada website, and that's bdc.ca. It's a fantastic resource and has tons of information for entrepreneurs. So there are 9 key components of a business model canvas. Cost structure, right? So cost structure is kind of talking about what's the most important cost that I have to take on as a business. And it also talks about what's my most expensive cost. For many people who are have a brick and mortar or a retail shop, a lot of times it may be their rent, it may be their insurance. For some of others, it may be their marketing, it may be their website. So everybody has the most expensive cost, but they also have one that is most important to them. So it could be, they could both be the same cost. So that's, not uncommon. Number 2 is key partners. And when we mean about partners, we ask, well, who are my partners in this? And I don't mean business partners per se, but people who support or work in your business or support your business, right? Who are my key suppliers? Like suppliers are a partner. Who am I buying my product and material from? And are they the best resource for me? Or is there a better resource? And what type of resources am I getting from them? So those are things you can talk about in terms of your key partners. Key activities. There's a lot of information on this area, but you kind of want to go through it in all of your business. So categorize it. My key activities that you need to do. Well, I need to market. I need to produce. I need to network. So there's a lot of different activities that are important to your business in order for people to want to engage with your business and promote your business. So it's important that you think of those key activities that will keep your doors open. We'll skip the value proposition because we're going to try to do a quick exercise if anybody has a mind to it. Value proposition. Oh, sorry, key resources we did. Customer relations. So do you have a customer relation with any of your customers? Are they just one time and they buy it and they're gone and they're done? Or do you follow up? Do you connect with them? Do you ask how things are going? Do you send them promotional information? Say, hi, I've got a discount going on, or I've got a promo. So you want to make sure you have some kind of relationship with your customers. You want to be clear on what type of relationship you have with customers. And you want to make sure that you can determine whether it's a positive relationship for you and your customer by doing kind of a cost of that relationship versus the value received from yourself and your customer. Customer segments is it's number 8 there. So we kind of jumped down a little bit. Sorry about that. So customer segments is honestly, who are you serving? Like, is it a niche market where you only sell to Indigenous people whose name starts with B? That's pretty niche. Do you want to sell to the mass, like everybody, anybody? Are you open to all of that? And is your product or service available? Do you want to do solely to Indigenous people? So you kind of get the drift of that. Right? My customer segments are, who am I selling to? Who's buying my product? Who am I serving? And then we have the pricing structure, right? The revenue streams, the pricing structure. How am I pricing my product? The payment structure. How am I being paid for my good or my service? And also different types of revenue that your business may be having. I have 4 different revenue streams under my one particular business, and they're all interrelated to the type of business I operate. So I pretty much know my pricing structure for each 4 product. I know the payment structure for all of them. It's very similar. And then I have my different types of revenue. So the other component is the value proposition. And the real question for that is, what value are you providing to your customers through your business? So we'll kind of dig into that in the next slide. But for me, the business model canvas, I found really useful and viable, like really valuable, because of course it's less complex than a multi-page business plan to start out with anyways. It has much less time put into it to create it for yourself, and definitely less money. You can print off a number of different options or variants of this business model canvas online from a number of different entrepreneur entities. So it doesn't really cost you any money in terms of spending for it. I also like it because it just helps capture your ideas, right? So let's say when I did mine, I really just use sticky notes. And then I wrote down thoughts and ideas in my business and how I wanted it to proceed. And then I would just stick it in the various component area that I thought it was relevant and fit. And sometimes I'd pull the sticky note off and I'd say, actually, it's more of that. Or sometimes I'd pull it all up together, throw it away and say, nope, that's not me. That's not my business. I also like, as Indigenous people, we are really visual learners, right? It's important to us to have that. I like that it has that visual representation of your business. right? So it's sitting right up there in the wall. And sometimes if you're getting lazy and you're on Facebook too much or social media, then you see it and you're like, oh yeah, there's my calling. That's my intent. That's my purpose. So it actually acts as a motivational component to you as well. But I just wanted to also note, you will very likely require a fully written business plan at some point in your business, especially if you're going to be seeking out capital, funds, grants. Sometimes business competitions may require a full business plan. But I think this is a really great starting point for people with small business. It's fantastic for anybody with it, regardless of the size of the structure of business, especially for those visual learners. So I was hoping we'd have time to do this little exercise, but I just want to challenge you to at least kind of do it on your own. When you start creating a business model canvas, you're supposed to start with your value proposition number one. So when you start thinking, before you start filling in all the other things, a lot of people race to revenue, like, oh, I'm going to earn this, this, and this, right? That's okay. But start thinking about what value you're adding to your customers. So I was going to hopefully have time to do the activity, but here's the value proposition. It's a business promise to your customers, point blank, that's it. It needs to be direct, simple, and it needs to kind of help customers understand why they'd rather purchase from you over any others. So it is kind of captured in the business plans as well, but it's usually written within the vision and or the mission statement of your business plan, but it's sometimes not as direct. So if you think in terms of marketing terms, you want something fast, quick, and catchy. So a really excellent example is the Apple iPhone. Their vision, their value proposition is that the experience is the product. So in this value proposition, they're not selling customers an iPhone, a cell phone, they're actually selling them an experience. So if I know we don't have the time to do it right now, but I was going to say, if you wanted to think about your value proposition offline, draw a big thought bubble and just kind of think, what is my value proposition? What is the promise I can make to customers? Like it could be for beadwork, it could be the most unique experience you'll have in crafting or something like that, right? My value proposition is knowledge sharing for financial peace of mind. So that's an example of some. So there's a ton of resources, including Can-Do, our very gracious host today. They have wonderful resources. They have free webinars, zero hit to your business budget or personal budget. There's something called Lift Indigenous Collective. That's primarily for Indigenous women. NWAC, Be the Drum. There are Indigenous Business Development Services, Community Futures Development Corps. In Saskatchewan, they have something called WEST, which is Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan. Every Chamber of Commerce has a business entrepreneur development type of entity. Entrepreneurs with Disabilities is a program in Saskatchewan. I'm sure there are relatable. I think they actually operate for Manitoba as well. They do. Square One. Lots of great resources. If you wanted to know how many coffee shops are in my neighborhood, Square One has those type of statistics that entrepreneurs can access. So that way you can look at the competitive edge. Is there one just down the block? Well, then I don't want to set up here, right? Those types of things. Business Development Canada, I shared one of the, the business model canvas from their website. Clarence Campo Development Fund for our Métis people, our Métis friends. First Nation Economic Development branches. So your First Nation may have something that's geared towards entrepreneurs. I know our community, George Gordon, is fantastic, and they do have an entrepreneur program. And check with your tribal councils. A lot of them have that economic development branch as well. So we're getting close, 350. I'm working on it, Michelle. So I would not be doing my due diligence if I did not talk about financial literacy, because that is my passionate calling. So in terms of you becoming a FinLit entrepreneur, I want to encourage you to let you know that your money matters. Every single penny matters. So make some wise choices. In terms of business management, make sure that you have a personal and a business budget. Your personal budget are all your must pays, all the things you have to meet. That actually helps drive your business projections. If I have to make $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month to pay all my must pays and a little bit more for my extras, that means my business has to earn at least that amount plus more to manage the business expenses, right? So think about that. They're really closely related. Make sure you have a separate personal and business finances. Keep them separate. And what I mean by that is make sure you start building business credit and personal credit. Do not use a lot of your personal expenses and credits and credits, cards and accounts for your business, because there comes a time, whether it's taxation or whether there's benefits programs that come available, COVID relief, those types of things, that you're going to have to separate them or miss out on the opportunity. So might as well just keep them separate now. And then the work is mostly done for you. Work, again, I can't stress this enough, work on credit building, credit repair, and credit repayment plans so that you can reduce the amount of debt. You can improve your credit rating with the credit reporting agencies and be able to utilize that in terms of growing or creating or launching your business. And set aside any extra money you earned in your business in 1 month for the slower, quieter months. So let's say that you produce product. In December, you probably had a stellar month because people were shopping like crazy. But January and February, the sales kind of went off. So you can see that as a cyclical pattern and then prepare for that. So in December, you had a stellar month. Don't spend all of it, put some aside to kind of buoy you in the slower months. So those are really important things in terms of business management, personally and financially, or personally and professionally. Another couple things for Indigbusiness tips, it's your business, so know your dough. Understand your business books and reports. You don't have to do them if you don't want to. I do mine, but at least understand it if somebody's sitting in front of you and saying, here's your numbers. So at least have an understanding of that. Monitor your pricing strategy. If you make earrings and you're selling them for $40 a pair and just about everybody else is at 45 to 50, take a look at your pricing and seeing if there's something that you're overlooking in terms of grabbing that extra revenue. Learn your break-even point. If you don't know what a break-even point is, Google it now. I'll tell you very quickly. It's the amount, it's the time when every dollar that you spend towards expense has been paid off. So you're earning revenue, here's your expenses. All your revenue has reached that point, all your business revenue, and then the next dollar is your actual, like that's the break-even point when they match each other. And then the next dollar is pure profit. Know your money makers. Everybody has money makers that make them more money and revenue than other products or services. And are there any loss leaders in the reverse? That means, is there anything that actually is kind of bringing people in, but it's not necessarily a major money maker for you? So make sure you know that number and what the product is and if it's actually paying off. Select the right software for right now. A lot of times I find entrepreneurs buy the nicest, fanciest type of bookkeeping software, but they don't know how to use it. So it just sits in their inventory that they've spent money on and never really had an opportunity to use it. For myself, I operate on Excel. I haven't had a need to go any further than that. I use Excel for all my revenue, all my expenses, and my tax contribution each year. Decide for yourself how much you want profit to go to your personal income or how much you want to reinvest into your own business, and decide on who your helpers are. A lot of them will be mentors. A lot of them are free resources, people to tap into. I bounce ideas up, pep you up, encourage you. So think about those types of things. Other helpers professionally are accountants, bookkeepers, lawyers, marketing experts, technical people who can help you build your website, and start. Take action. A lot of times people are frozen in fear because they don't know how to do it or whatever. I've shared as much as I can within this hour to kind of encourage you to say, okay, these are manageable steps. Like I don't have a super, power or anything like that. I'm a disabled Indigenous female solo parent of 3, but I knew that I had a skill set that others would like to learn. Right. So that's all I did was I started working on the project itself, and everything else I started learning more and more about. And P.S., please don't feel discouraged. A lot of times people think success is a straight catapult into history as a history maker. But really, there's a lot of bumps and curves and a lot of pauses sometimes, so you figure things out. Keep in mind, all that glitters is not gold, especially in social media. These are direct quotes for myself. Because few people share in their struggles, right? They don't share their challenges, their struggles, their failures. They always say, I'm acing it. And that sometimes I think leaves an intimidating message to those who have not yet started, because they feel like, really, you're so amazing. I don't think I could ever be that. And then they pause on themselves and they don't do it. So a lot of people just don't share their challenges and their struggles. And I think that's important for us to be fully open and transparent and honest. And sometimes there are things I don't know. I have to take it upon myself as a solopreneur to do it myself, because it really is in the struggles where we learn and get stronger. And remember this, the truth is we don't give up around here. And she lives happily ever after. So any thoughts, closing questions, anything like that, I'm open to sharing. And I'm just going to go through my disclosures and the image credits. Padame, that means thank you very much in Dakota. And that's all my contact information there. If you like what you heard, let me know, and let others know, sorry. If you didn't, let me know so I can improve. Thank you so much. Less than an hour, Michelle.
Hey, you did amazing as usual. So round of applause for Cate Morris from Scout Financial Solutions. So all her information is there. So take a note of it, shoot her an email, follow her on social media. Spread the word. Like, this is great knowledge. This is good knowledge that we need as a people, and it's empowering. So thank you so much. We have like 2 minutes. Does anyone have a comment or question? We have tons of people in the chat box saying thank you. Love your passion and your fire. So anyone have a question? I mean, you brought a lot of knowledge to the table, and you brought some tools, like some homework that we can also do as well. So thank you so much for that. So any questions, comments before we close today? Just a whole lot of thank yous. Really great session today, Cate. One thing that I actually really stood out to me was when you called it soul, like S-O-U-L. Like, I love that, right? Like, as entrepreneurs, we are putting, our heart and soul, our blood, sweat, and tears, all of that into what we believe, Creator has called us to do, or that fire, that theme. So I loved that. Also, mentorship, huge. I think that that's so important. It's never too late. We're never too old to tap into those resources, those people who can help guide us and lead us in a good way. So that's great. And you just gave us all around great tools to work with. So thank you so much. Oh, how can we access the recording? So if you go on to the Can Do website, so maybe Elsie can put it in the chat box. But I'm pretty sure if you go onto the website, you'll be able to look through and see where some of these recordings are. Yeah. Oh, she'll send you a link after the session. There we go. So thank you everyone for being here. It's just what an enlightening afternoon. And your money matters. And so this is important to learn about and to implement it into our businesses and into our lives. So thank you for being here. Hope you have a good rest of the day. And Cate, I just have so much respect and love for you and admiration. So thank you so much for the knowledge you shared this afternoon. So be well, everyone. Take care, and we'll hopefully see you again. Peace.